So guys, some Americans have arrived Plateau State after the latest attack. We all know that recently the terror guys attacked a village, leaving 12 people, right? And the burial took place some few days ago. Now these people are on ground to see things for themselves. Also, you are going to be taking a look at a video from Arise TV where it has been exposed that the northern governors are the ones pushing for, repentance, Boko Haram, negotiation, amnesty for all these terror guys. So guys, this will leave you in shock. Take your time and watch this video for you to see that this country has already been mortgaged. I mean, this country has already been mortgaged to a particular set of people. Every other thing we are doing today make no sense. And like you can see, Nigerians are not proactive. I mean, we are not proactive. We are not lending our voices the way we're supposed to. All these things are happening. Nnamdi Kanu has been jailed and be taken to Sokoto State. Can you imagine that? And then terror guys are, ravaging the whole places. And then the northern governors are canvassing for repentance and also, amnesty and all that. In case you don't know, do you know that they kidnapped some travelers who were traveling yesterday along Enugu Road? These Fulani terrorist guys that are all over the places. You can imagine what people are going through this Christmas trying to get to their destinations. And the Tinubu's government is saying they don't want death sentences for terror guys. They don't want any death sentences that is going to worsen insecurity. The body language has just been like, petting these terror guys. Anyway, let me allow you to take a look at this video, the arrival of these Americans, and then you are going to be listening to this northerner who was on channel or Arise TV, and they were discussing why Christopher Musa is against governors asking for, amnesty for these terror guys. Now take your time, watch this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. Now take a look.
While the mass burial was ongoing, the terrorists advanced to attack another village under this Fan district, because all these houses are the settlers of Fan, the native inhabitants of Fan. But where the terrorists came from, the people that came and the terrorists that came and perpetrated this act from that settlement beside that hill, that's where they base. And it was from there they came straight to this point, having known that people are carrying out their lawful mining activities here. So they came in the night and moved straight to this point and perpetrated the heinous crime, and still went back because it was serious shooting, and so nobody could come out that night for any intervention. Yes. So until when they had completed their distance, and then they went back to that place. And then a day after the burial, that was on Saturday, we got a call that they have brought in another set of armed men and stationed them at first. I personally called the chief of staff, Brigadier General St. Long, who is the chief of staff of operation during peace, that this is another information we have gotten, that this terrorist element have been brought again, in one Fulani settlement, and that they will advance to any nearby native community to carry out similar act of terrorism. So, and that is what has been happening over and over and over, especially during this season. Christmas season, when rainy season is also setting in, and then when harvest season is also setting in. These are the period that they usually carry out these heinous activities, so that people will not, one, celebrate Christmas, and then two, people will not cultivate their farmlands, and then three, people will not be allowed to harvest the few farmlands that are able to survive the alarming mischievous grazing. Because like this year alone, we've recorded not less than 5,000 farmlands destroyed. 5, yes, not less than 5,000 farmlands destroyed. In one day here in Gaza, after the last checkpoint we passed before coming here, there was about 76 farmlands were destroyed in one day. In one day.
what you need to really invest in is not drones. You need drones.
Exactly. And in short, how
your governor should drones and all that.
exactly, and every of their strike that you see it with precision, they usually use drones. They fly drones to give them the precise target, and that's why they will move straight to that point. And we had asked the authority, the security, how do we then know the drone belonging to the terrorists and the one of the Nigerian security, particularly the Operation Safe Haven? Because anytime they will be attacked, you will see drones. And when you call the security, they will say, it's their own drone. And then their own drone. So the whole thing there is that, could it be that the terrorists are working alongside the federal security agents and flying those drones, and then they will come and strike with precision, or they also fly their own drone, separately from the one that Nigerian security fly their own, so the whole thing, we cannot actually fathom and decipher what is really happening in this general area.
So thank you, Barrister. I think we don't have enough time. We are here, and evangelists have seen the site of the grave of the mass burial of those attack. From this moment, we'll go to the house of the chief and then pray with those affected there, and then condole them with, because we have a program again. So we appreciate you showing us here.
These killings of those who want to kill Christians, kill Muslims, and all of that.
But then, before I answer that, how are you sure that's not President Trump's strategy to bring us to our knees, to come begging for him to sell weapons at a very exorbitant rate, for perhaps not the best weapons in the world, perhaps to force us? We have a principle of non-alignment, but to box us into a corner. How are you sure that's not what he's doing? But going back to support from the United States of America, who have been our strategic partner all along, and we appreciate everything that they have done. But there's a lot that they have not done. You remember the procurement of the Super Tucanos. You remember the procurements of arms and ammunition, the Leahy Law, and there was a time a serving CDI was denied visa officially to go to the United States. There was a time a CDS was also denied visa to go to the United States. Nigeria maintains a principle of non-alignment. We have friends everywhere. Nigeria is surrounded by Francophone countries. What do they expect us to do? When we started fighting Boko Haram, weapons were not sold to us. In fact, our hands and legs were bound and tied. We had to become so ingenious to find a way to battle out of this quagmire that we found ourselves. And this is also part of, again, a global problem. It's not just an isolated problem that is Nigeria-centric. It is something that will transcend the entire globe, as we have seen. So it is not in the interest of Donald Trump's White House to say, like they are the monitor in the classroom or the moral police. How dare he? He does not have that authority.
Well, he's the president of the U.S.
But he's not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If we don't have your friendship, we can get friendship otherwise.
Yeah, but we also have Nigerian citizens who are back in the U.S. who are saying that, look, we need to protect minorities, whether you're a religious minority or ethnic minority. The federal government of Nigeria owes it a right, especially under a Muslim ticket, to ensure that there's no feeling of marginalization by Christians.
You see, people are just trying to be clever by half. There is no group of Nigerians that does not feel or did not feel marginalized at one point or the other. It is the nature of our democracy which is still evolving. When you are a president in Nigeria, first you are seen as a tribal leader. First, even the outlook of how you wear, what you appoint, etc. This is the basis of our fragile yet strong union. So we need to discuss on basis of rational understanding, not quota system. Let the best from within us aspire to lead us, and let them lead us regardless of who they are. Not that the worst of us should lead us only because it is their turn or there is some gentleman agreement or whatever. So first we need to define that basis of identity. After all, what is Trump doing? Is he not coming down on minorities? Is that not what we have been accused of? Is he not marginalizing everybody? Is he not putting blacks, Hispanics, etc. in danger? Is he not threatening to even invade another country? I read a very interesting argument this morning when someone was saying, look at Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the world, neighbor to one of the richest countries in the world. You have not solved that problem, yet you are going halfway across the Atlantic to talk about some perceived marginalization? Or is he saying that the pontiff, or the leader of the Catholic faith who put out a statement was not correct? Or perhaps his alleged envoy that met our president in Rome on the sidelines of the Aqaba process meeting that made his statement he wasn't speaking for the White House. So President Trump, with due respect, has enough on his plate. The tariffs that he has put, the upheavals, he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize. If he's able to solve the problems in the world, Nigeria would be the first to recommend him, but I think he needs to, with due respect, back off and allow us to solve our problems.
All right, as we try to conclude this, Honorable Gebi, I mean, this I actually learned is what put the former Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, in problem. I mean, there's this session of the National Security Council where he insists that the Nigerian military will not accede to the request of governors to continue to go into dialogue with terrorists, agreements with terrorists, because the terrorists don't keep their own part of the bargain. Could this have been part of the issues that led to his exit?
I don't think so. I mean, his exit is something that was again predicated on the whims of the commander-in-chief, under whose pleasure he served. He appointed
if
him.
he had expressed such a view, I mean, maybe for political reasons, the National Security Advisor, the federal government decides to go that way.
Not necessarily.
But he feels that the military can actually do more. But the political authorities
you see,
different.
it is because, again, we have a short attention span, we have collective selective amnesia, and we like to think of the glass always half empty. This is the same Ogasiji Musa as theater commander that was the champion of non-kinetic strategies and non-kinetic operations that saw to the creation of the Borno model. This is the same Ogasiji Musa that was chairman, steering committee of Operation Safe Corridor, and said the way out of this, we can't shoot our way out of it, we have to talk our way out of it. But you cannot talk your way out of it at the expense of the victims. This has always been his pivot. Operation Safe Corridor, just before he left, he made the charge throughout the last 2 years he was CDS, it must become victim-centric. You cannot seem to repay the perpetrator at the expense of the victim. So this lack of correlation in terms of policy at the strategic level and then at the operational and tactical level is what leads to these types of problems. No matter what happens, if you look at whatever, I can't remember how many delegations went to Colombia to study the world famous Colombia model. First, in Colombia, there was a referendum. Do you want us to dialogue with the FARC? When the answer was yes, then what type of dialogue? Everything was centered around the victim. So even if we want to reconcile, nobody's saying we shouldn't reconcile. In insurgencies, you can't shoot your way out of it. You must talk your way out of it. But it is the shooting that will enable the talking to happen. So we fight while we talk and we talk while we fight. But the doctrine should be all-out peace or all-out war. So Ogasiji Musa has had no problem with alignment. He is a fighting officer. He's an infantry officer, one of the best Nigeria's produced. But there needs to be policy alignment and consistency, especially in a democratic setting.
Very inspiring talk there. Let's talk about how the focus, according to some generals I've been speaking with, should not be on just changing, those who are the head of, the military branches. Let's talk about the security architecture of Nigeria at the moment. Do we need to tinker with the system at the moment right now, like we did in the 80s during Babangida, including the idea of bringing a National Guard, a sort of pseudo-military force? Because if you listen to General Oluyede, the new Chief of Defense Staff, he says we have a policing problem in Nigeria. And the police is not being strengthened, and as a result of that, the military is doing police operations across the country.
But that's exactly the point. We are not strengthening the police, but we want to create something new without fixing what we have. So how about trying to fix what we have to ensure that it is compliant, 21st century capabilities deployed, and then, if it doesn't work, then we can talk about the architecture. People are talking about state police. What is the civil defense corps? Therefore, so instead of creating forest guards, we've always had the forest rangers. In NSCDC, there's the agro rangers. So we have this knee-jerk reaction. We have become tactical. We are never strategic. There's a problem. When there's hue and cry over the problem, we try to throw a solution at it. Whereas we are thinking of only solving the problem but not resolving the issue. This is our problem. We have to think strategically. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into office, one of the first things, everyone agreed this man is a financial genius. He's going to fix the finance. There was hue and cry in the beginning, but things are beginning to look great. You can take your debit card, travel anywhere in the world, spend your naira, convert it into dollars. So we need to give things strategic time. There has to be gestation time, lag time before implementation. But because we are so impatient, rightfully so in most cases, because of the problems we have seen in the country, but we need to become a bit more strategic. So if we're going to suffer for 1 year, let us agree to suffer for 1 year so that the next 3 years would be absolutely fantastic.
But the people have to be part of the strategy. They really need to know that the suffering is not going to be a political suffering.
You are absolutely correct. The last time you and I had an engagement here, I told you we do not communicate government policies the right way. We do not have any communication strategy that is automatic, just deployed, unless there is a problem before you see people who should otherwise be engaging citizens come into the television to talk to citizens. This should be called consistently coherent.
A sort of a national security communication center for citizens.
There are many of them. If you remember during the Goodluck administration, the Oneri committee, that was a fantastic idea. That was in charge of, giving information about the theater. So now when you hear stories that 100,000 people have defected from Boko Haram, and there is no explanation, nobody comes up to be queried, to be interrogated, for people to be convinced that this is happening organically and our military is winning. Another example is, just a few months ago, 2 of the 3 of the nastiest human beings on this planet, terrorists, were apprehended by joint operations coordinated by the NSA, the DSS, and the military. Who is talking about them today? Nobody's talking about them, again, because we have not made it a point to keep updating our citizens on what happened, what they were about to do, how nasty these guys were, and what they were planning to do, and how they were arrested, and Shekau is dead. Nobody remembers that Shekau is dead.
Yeah, man.
Right.
That's what usually happens. When government wins, I mean, it just goes down. And the government doesn't also know how to communicate.
That's exactly the
issues.
Point. That's exactly
now, let's go to the current issue at hand right now. Nigeria is in the eye of the storm with the Americans slamming us with the CPC. Country of particular concern by the Trump administration. I mean, we had this in the first term of Trump, and then this is happening again. What exactly have we been doing wrong that we haven't done right?
No, I think before I try to answer, I may not have the competence since I'm not a diplomat, but I'll answer as a failed politician and a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I would say we should also slam a CPC on the United States.
Well, it's only the U.S. that does that.
Exactly. What gives the United States that moral authority? What happened if they're talking about genocide? What is going on in the Sudan? How come Trump has not talked about the Sudan? What has happened in Gaza that is still happening? How long did it take America to come round to doing this wishy-washy peace agreement? So we need to call ourselves with the name that we want others to call ourselves. Is there problems in Nigeria? Yes. But if, as a Nigerian, I would not say Muslims are killed, or Christians are killed, or Tiv is killed, or Fulani is killed. Nigerians are being killed. The same way the Americans would say Americans are being killed, not somebody that is a Muslim or a Christian or a Mormon. So this lack of identity that seems to be reinforced from external influence is part of our greatest problem. And I said this in this theater before. I hope that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be the president to craft a national identity based on consensus, tolerance, patience, and understanding. But as long as we will keep saying Muslims died, Christians died, Fulani killed, the Tiv died, Nigerians are dying.
Well, the Americans are driving this conversation, and then a whole lot of people have been saying that, look, we've had instances where we've seen Christians actually being killed, the Benue Plataeu and all of that. But also, we've also seen Muslims being bombed in mosque and all of that. But the government narrative, and I mean, I've spoken with some lobbyists, and they say the government lost that like 3 to 4 weeks proud to now window to actually say this is what we are doing. The communication was very poor. I mean, with people like you around them, they don't listen to what's happening.
You are correct. I think Nigeria, is camera shy, frankly speaking. If you look at the relationship between Nigeria and Niger, as bad as it was, there was a point when the same thing that was happening in Mali was happening in Niger, when there wasn't a drop of petrol. Nigeria quietly, through the office of the NSA, coordinated with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the presidency, and the military, sent 300 trucks of PMS.
Just like the way the Malians are also seeking support from the back door.
But Niamey never recognized that, never put it out there. Yeah. And Nigeria, being the older brother, did not come out to say ABCD. Again, someone has to be the adult in the room. So I think it is time for Nigeria to stop being the adult in the room, also to play like the children. For example, if you are talking about Donald Trump, one of the closest people to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is President Macron of France. Yeah. Why is he not interceding on behalf of his friend, if not on behalf of Nigeria? He should intercede and say the truth and set it correct. After all, he's been in Nigeria and he has roots in Nigeria. But the biggest lobby group that still, I've said this before, I will say that we have not been able to harness is our Igbo brothers in diaspora. They are the biggest, most successful diaspora in the United States of America. In fact, of any diaspora group. They permeate the entire leadership strata of the United States of America. But we are not engaging them for them, when the issues come up, for them to lobby positively, objectively, on behalf of Nigeria. So that integration has to happen. Unless we integrate the Igbos into the mainstream of Nigerian polity and policy, we will not get that communication.
Well, you and I know that, I mean, politically, there's a fear within the political elites in Nigeria as to what happened in 1966. if it should not continue. And despite the fact that there have been these calls for us to move away from that and build a nation, people just still want to, cling to their regions and all of that.
Again, you are absolutely correct. But these are imaginary differences that are being reinforced by those who seek to see us as their subjects.
For decades.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, but the problem is, Sambo, up till now, when you are filling a form in Nigeria, you put indigene, you put religion. Why? I'm a Nigerian. That's all that should matter. So we are either citizens or we are subjects. But it is this migration from subjecthood to citizenhood that is our problem. There is a group of Nigerians across the entire space of Nigeria who seek to retain control over Nigeria, who seek to subjugate the rest of us and treat us as subjects. Bola Ahmed Tinubu doesn't seem to be part of that group. And this is why he has liberal policies, and this is why he will be fought. Buhari also was not part of that group. And you saw what happened with Buhari. So unless we allow the younger generation that are coming out who do not understand the concept of identity other than being a citizen of a space, a citizen of humanity, for them to decide and chart a way forward, we will still be held back by our own prejudices of the past. When Sheikh Tinubu, for example, goes out, you see Muslims, Christians, Northerners, Southerners, Easterners, foreigners, everyone supporting the young man. Why? Because he's a symbol of the new generation of identity-based definitions in terms of who a Nigerian is.
All right. Now, let's talk about the implications of this country of particular concern designation by the United States. I mean, one of the things here is that we may not get military assistance going forward by the U.S. government. And then, of course, there are some other ones. It may eventually lead to an economic issue. But if we don't get security support from the U.S., where else do we turn to? Because you would have seen where Onanuga, the present media advisor, was, replying Marco Rubio and said that, look, what we need is military support to be able to curb these killings of those who want to kill Christians, kill Muslims, and all of that. Not all of these designations.
But then before I answer that, how are you sure that's not President Trump's strategy to bring us to our knees, to come begging for him to sell weapons at a very exorbitant rate? For perhaps not the best weapons in the world. Perhaps to force us. We have a principle of non-alignment, but to box us into a corner. How are you sure that's not what he's doing? But going back to support from the United States of America, who have been our strategic partner all along, and we appreciate everything that they have done. But there's a lot that they have not done. You remember the procurement of the Super Tucanos. You remember the procurements of arms and ammunition, the Leahy Law, and there was a time a serving CDI was denied visa officially to go to the United States. There was a time a CDS was also denied visa to go to the United States. Nigeria maintains a principle of non-alignment. We have friends everywhere. Nigeria is surrounded by francophone countries. What do they expect us to do? When we started fighting Boko Haram, weapons were not sold to us. In fact, our hands and legs were bound and tied. We had to become so ingenious to find a way to battle out of this quagmire that we found ourselves. And this is also part of, again, a global problem. It's not just an isolated problem that is Nigeria-centric. It is something that will transcend the entire globe, as we have seen. So it is not in the interest of Donald Trump's White House to say, like, they are the monitor in the classroom or the moral police. How dare he? He does not have that authority.
Well, he's the president of the U.S.
But he's not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If we don't have your friendship, we can get friendship otherwise.
Yeah, but we also have Nigerian citizens who are back in the U.S. who are saying that, look, we need to do to protect minorities, whether you're a religious minority or ethnic minority. The federal government of Nigeria owes it a right, especially under a Muslim ticket, to ensure that there's no feeling of marginalization by Christians.
You see, people are just trying to be clever by half. There is no group of Nigerians that does not feel or did not feel marginalized at one point or the other. It is the nature of our democracy which is still evolving. When you are a president in Nigeria, first you are seen as a tribal leader. First, even the outlook of how you wear, what you appoint, etc. This is the basis of our fragile yet strong union. So we need to discuss on basis of rational understanding, not quota system. Let the best from within us aspire to lead us, and let them lead us regardless of who they are. Not that the worst of us should lead us only because it is their turn or there is some gentleman agreement or whatever. So first we need to define that basis of identity. After all, what is Trump doing? Is he not coming down on minorities? Is that not what we are being accused of? Is he not marginalizing everybody? Is he not putting blacks, Hispanics, etc. in danger? Is he not threatening to even invade another country? I read a very interesting argument this morning when someone was saying, look at Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the world, neighbor to one of the richest countries in the world. You have not solved that problem yet. You are going halfway across the Atlantic to talk about some perceived marginalization. Or is he saying that the pontiff, or the leader of the Catholic faith who put out a statement was not correct? Or perhaps his alleged envoy that met our president in Rome on the sidelines of the Aqaba process meeting that made his statement he wasn't speaking for the White House. So President Trump, with due respect, has enough on his plate. The tariffs that he has put, the upheavals, he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize. If he's able to solve the problems in the world, Nigeria would be the first to recommend him, but I think he needs to, with due respect, back off and allow us to solve our problems.
All right, as we try to conclude this conversation, let's talk about Nigeria's response and then, of course, the charge to the new service chiefs. I mean, you would have seen with all the divisions that we're having now, allegations of coup or no coup and all of that, military discipline. What exactly should these new service chiefs be doing to ensure that there's cohesion and support the president in ensuring that, we go off this list?
There is a chain of command. There is the commander-in-chief and there are his service chiefs. There is the NSA. We are not recreating the wheel. It already exists. All these new officers, fine officers, warriors, war makers, peacemakers have worked together. There is absolutely no crack in the military. It is something that continues just as our democracy has continued to endure. So it is people who are not happy with the status that Nigeria is inevitably going to achieve that are trying to cause these fractures. The military will continue fighting. Of course, the military will continue to adapt to the needs of the contemporary challenges, but the military needs political direction, unwavering, unambiguous political direction, not political direction that you have to interpret from body language, precise, concise, direct language. What do you need? What are the benchmarks? What are the yardsticks? What do you need to deliver this? For me, the charge would be crush the bandits, finish the bandits, finish banditry. That's the first one. Boko Haram, this resurgence, whatever, we have to make peace with Niger. We didn't make peace with Niger. Up till now, we have not made peace with Niger. Even if we do solve our problem, as long as Niger is not solved, we have not solved our problem. Chad has issues. Sudan is just next door. Some countries are allegedly destabilizing those other two countries. Then you have Cameroon that has just undergone a very volatile electoral process. We have problems around us. Bilaterally, I think we should reach out. It is in our best interest to stabilize Niger, to stabilize Chad, to ensure the transition in Cameroon happens the way that the will of the citizens wanted, and also to aid Benin Republic. Benin Republic is lost in this conversation for some reason. We've forgotten that when ECOWAS put the embargo and border closure, and Benin Republic complied 100%. But Jenim is in the northern part of Benin Republic as part of the Tillaberi annex of evil. And still there is problem between Benin Republic and Niger. So Nigeria needs to look a little bit more outward, solve the problem from afar before it comes here, because it will come here. If rumors and tabloid information, anything to go by, what happened in Mali, the alleged recovery of the Emiratis and the horrendous amount of money that was given to Jenim. Where is that money going to go to? Already Jenim, they have been in Nigeria for a very long time. This is just the first time that they are certain they are here. So that money is going to push southwards. So Nigeria needs to play that game very well. And this is why we've always suggested to the president, to the foreign minister perhaps, that there's a need to have a special envoy to the AES and the Sahel. There needs to be a special envoy to Sudan.
Babagana Kingibe was...
No, Babagana Kingibe was ECOWAS envoy to Chad on transition. All right. We have one ambassador in the entire Sahelian space, former CDI AVM Usman in Niger, but we need also to stabilize Sudan. The two wearing generals, I guarantee you at one point or the other, both of them served under some Nigerian commander. And some of these commanders are still alive. So Nigeria needs to not just look outside the continent of Africa. We need to look to our neighbors. If we don't stabilize the Sahel, no matter the level of prosperity and security in Nigeria, we'll still be vulnerable.
All right, just before I let you go very quickly, what do you have for these communities that continue to get into agreements with bandits and all this terror?
There can be no agreement without red lines. There can be no agreement without traditional restorative or punitive justice. There cannot be any agreement that is not sanctioned by the federal government. There has to be a framework. There has to be something that is sustainable. Governors come and go every 8 years. Federal government is permanent. So governors cannot be seen to procure negative peace just for the exigencies of politics and leave it simmering, compounding, then go and then the federal government takes up and then the military again is overstretched. We should have learned from the Boko Haram and other crises. So no dialogue unless there is a framework that federal government ratifies, defines and accepts.
Let me quickly take you through some of the headlines on the social media. There is one here, that has to do with Metawale, who is this Minister for State Defense or State Minister for Defense, anyhow you call it. So Nigerians are questioning, why is Tinubu silent about the accusations? Netizens question Tinubu's continued silence as fresh evidence indicting Metawale of terror funding emerges. Why is Tinubu silent? That's the question. Just because of 2027. Tinubu does not mind that people are being buyed. I mean, it is heartbreaking. Now, this person said Metawale probably have his notes. Hey, this person is saying something important too. Maybe Metawale really has notes, meaning that secrets of Tinubu, maybe he's scared they might leak his secrets. So guys, politics in Nigeria is so dirty that you really have to be very careful. Thank God for somebody like Peter Obi who will come out to dare them and nobody has anything to indict him on. Now, this person, another headline here is saying, Save Nigerian Group demands suspension of Nuhu Ribadu over terror allegations. Save Nigerian Group is demanding for his, he should resign. I mean, not Metawale this time, Nuhu Ribadu should resign. Nuhu Ribadu should resign. And now there's an article attached to that. I'm going to read the article. Now, this article here says, Save Nigerian Group demands suspension of Nuhu Ribadu over terror allegations. And it went ahead to say the Save Nigerian Group USA has expressed grave alarm over the deteriorating security situation in the Federation, issuing a series of urgent demands to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a press release dated 20 December 2025, the group called for the immediate suspension of the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, following disturbing reports from Kwara State. The organization cited allegations involving a captured militant who reportedly confessed to receiving weapons and logistics from the traceable to state-linked channel, including the Office of the National Security Advisor. The group emphasized that these revelations, if verified, constitute a catastrophic breach of national security and a betrayal of public trust. They have formally notified the International Criminal Court in Hague, my God, asserting that the pattern of violence in Nigeria, marked by religious persecution and ethnic cleansing, meets the threshold of international criminal review. The diaspora organization is demanding an independent national and international investigation into security sector complicity and the systemic failure to protect vulnerable population in the Middle Belt and other regions. I think this is very, very welcome. They've notified the International Criminal Court in Hague, and also they are asking for independent national and international investigation into security sector complicity. I mean, Tinubu should just help himself, and begin to do the needful. It went ahead to say specific demands include the immediate rescue of 37 ECWA church members kidnapped in Kogi and 165 Catholic school children still held in captivity in Niger State. The group also condemned the brutal killing of 12 teen minors in Bukos, Plataeu State, and urged a massive security surge to protect communities ahead of Christmas period. They further demand that the federal government publishes the names of individuals and entities identified as sponsors of terrorism, a list they claim successful governments have shielded from the public. In its conclusion, the Save Nigerian Group US urged President Tinubu to address the nation directly, to acknowledge the scale of the crisis and outline time-bound security actions signed by President Steve Osemwegwe and Director of Media Victor Onyeka-Ben. The state warns that Nigeria stands at a historic crossroad between justice and collapse, because the organization maintains that silence on the presidency at this critical moment risk being interpreted as tacit tolerance of institutional impunity. So guys, so this group is demanding for Nuhu Ribadu's sack. Nuhu Ribadu should be sacked. I mean, he should be sacked. Now, this person's suspension must be relieved of his duties as soon as possible. Yes, this guy is saying not suspension, but rather be relieved. You guys must be joking. Really joking? You guys must be joking. Like somebody say, maybe they have Tinubu's secret. So guys, you can see what security has become in Nigeria. You know, you can see what security has become. It's now something that they politicize in Nigeria. Now let's see more headlines, you know, talking about Nigerians and what is happening in the country. So there's also a debate here as regards to Tinubu designating terrorists as terrorists. You know, recently Tinubu say all kidnappers, terror guys are designated as terrorists. But this security expert, who is also a northerner, has come out to say Tinubu does not have the right to designate anybody. It is the court that has the right. So the question remains, is the designation by Tinubu going to stand, or are the northerners going to contest it in the court? Now let's see how Arise Channels Television posted it here on Twitter. It says the president does not have the power to determine whether a group is a terrorist or not. Neither does any member of the administration. That power resides with the competent court of jurisdiction. Kabiru Adamu, MD, Beacon Consulting Limited, speaking on President Tinubu administration's declaration of group bearing arms as terrorists. They said they are not terrorists, that the court. Now let's see how Nigerians are reacting to this, you know. Let's see how Nigerians are reacting to this. This person here said, it is not his fault, but that of the channels television that keep bringing terrorist sympathizers to talk to us with such a debased mentality. Very annoying. Terrorist sympathizers, they moves me walai. Please ask this clown if he had same opinion with Buhari declared IPOB as terrorists. And this person is saying, almost like channels television supports terrorists. There's a difference between freedom of speech and platforms. A terrorist sympathizer who use a station to raise support for terrorists. Why not just interview Bello Tuji? NBC are failing in their duty. And this other person here said, the problem is actually the leadership in the north. This is an MD of a sponsored organization. He went to school and climbed the ladder of life. They have not come together to see to eradicating this darkness of illiteracy in the north and the poverty that is directly. You know, this man owns a security company. So if he stops in security, how is he going to chop? Now this one says Nigeria is like putting Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, England, Wales, Scotland, Afghanistan together, called one nation. No be juju be that. One nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity is a scam. Nigeria is not a nation. Nigeria is a group of nations. A group of nations. One Nigeria is a scam. Okay, and another person here said, I guess you were dead when your dead Buhari tagged IPOB terrorists. You all were clapping for them to the extent your security forces started arresting and killing Igbo youths, as if that was not enough. The same Buhari and APC bribed Igbo leaders to remain mute while they kill their brothers. And this other person here said, I am not a fan of IPOB obedience, but when Buhari branded IPOB terrorists, you guys were happy. But now, Nemesis is now catching up on you guys, and you started wailing. Cry an ocean. Tinubu is your end. Only Tinubu has the nerves to deal with you guys. Obi would have chicken out like Jonathan. And this person, their assertion that only a court possesses the authority to declare organization a terrorist entity is legally unfounded. Under Nigerian law, the constitution vests judicial powers in the court. However, it does not confer with the exclusive authority to proscribe organizations. The Terrorist Prevention Act 2011 expressly empowers the president and relevant ministers to declare groups engaging in terrorism as proscribed, with courts exercising a review function only to ensure compliance with the due process and constitutional rights. This framework aligns with international practice, including the United States and the European Union, where executive authorities designate terrorist entities and courts intervene solely to assess legality. Accordingly, the claim in question is misguided and legally inaccurate. So guys, even after seeing all this, Yoruba land will gladly vote in another Fulani Islamists into power. As far as their turn by turn arrangement continues, they call not aren't Nigerians. Their alliance is to the Sokoto Caliphate, and their desire is to create another Afghanistan. Who declared IPOB a terrorist organization and gazetted it? Was it a court or Buhari? Nigeria is in genesis and fundamental. Nigeria is the genesis and fundamental problem of the indigenous people of the country. End Nigeria to save lives. This is the priority of the indigenous people in the country. Indigenous people revolutionary movement to freedom, the bondage of colonialism Nigeria. These guys support this terrorist group. The earlier our intelligence security structure is scrutinized and purged, the better. I hope Escobar understands it before it's too late. Tinubu is just after politics, you know. Nothing moves Tinubu at the moment. I mean, nothing moves him if not politics. And this person, only a sympathizer or a sponsor of terror group can be talking like this. The president or the National Assembly can designate a group of more than one person carrying arms to commit acts of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, cults, ritual killings, attacks on communities. And this other person here says the only thing commendable that Tinubu did is declaring those 31 groups terrorists in the country. I don't want this one is saying. I don't want what this one is saying. He must be the terror financer. This means the Fulanis value their life, the life of their cows more than the lovers of one Nigeria. No one in Nigeria is just an artificial entity. We aren't Nigerians. We aren't one. We can never be one. Nigerians are not a nation. Nigeria is not a nation. Nigeria is a group of nations. Okay, and this other person here says, globally, everybody is in bed with their terrorists until you and any of your relatives become victims of terrorism. You will never admit to how bad they treat humans. Bandits or any group threatening the existence of others are terrorists. So guys, I don't know what you make of this. And this person here says, see a terrorist. If Nigeria want to deal with terrorism, this man would have been picked up immediately after the interview and locked up in the prison where there is limited oxygen. Just imagine the skeletal ghoul trying to do apologetics for the rights of criminals, as if killing people is some sort of legitimate right. Does it also take a court of law to determine an enemy is invading the country when the enemy is identified and caught severally? I blame channels for bringing wrong people who are supporters of terrorism to their studio to continue to come and be spewing out nonsense. Boko Haram Fulani terrorists, bandit terrorists, Fulani headsmen terrorists, these are all missionaries for the Fulani Caliphate. Sultan of Sokoto is the head of the Fulani Caliphate. They love for their Fulani terrorist brothers is paramount. They don't trade that for money. By their words you shall know them. This is one of the people encouraging insecurity in that part of the country. They are not ready to end the scourge, okay, that has been gulping a crazy percentage of our budgets and person's lives. So guys, I don't know what you make of this. Let me know your thoughts on all these reactions coming from Nigerians. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification. Thank you.